Now, Canada is looking into joining a major multi-year missile defense program being developed by the United States. Yesterday, President Donald Trump unveiled plans for a 3-year, $175 billion missile shield that he's calling the Golden Dome, and he said that Canada wants in.
Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles, even if they are launched from other sides of the world, and even if they are launched from space. Canada has called us and they want to be a part of it, so we'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also. So as usual, we help Canada do the best we can.
The Prime Minister's office confirmed that, saying, quote, "The Prime Minister and his ministers are having wide-ranging and constructive discussions with their American counterparts. These discussions naturally include strengthening NORAD and related initiatives such as the Golden Dome." To help us make sense of this, I'm joined now by former Defense Minister Peter MacKay. Peter, thanks for joining us. I think back to even before your time as Defense Minister, this idea was burbling around. Why do you think now is the time that it's sort of come back up to the surface?
Well, I think there's a number of dynamics at work here, Peter. Strained relations with the United States. This is a big idea that might bring together a meeting of the minds on a very serious issue involving defense and security threats to North America, including around the Arctic, our coastal approaches. And so we are already, of course, very engaged in working with the United States through NORAD. And this idea, as you put it, has been around for some time. It does work quite successfully in Israel. Although I'm quick to point out that Israel is about half the size of Toronto, so we're talking a magnitude much, much more larger, much more involved. And I think it's just also a reflection of the geopolitics and the realities of what is happening in Ukraine, obviously, with the Russian invasion, instability, of course, in the Middle East and in Taiwan and China. So all of these things burbling about, I think, has brought forward an interesting discussion led primarily by President Trump, I might add.
Does the need for Canada and the commitment Canada's made to spend more money towards the 2% target of NATO, does that feed into sort of the chance that this might actually get done?
It does. It certainly elevates the discussion, given the sheer enormity. I mean, we are talking eye-watering numbers for an Iron Dome over North America. You know, it's been estimated anywhere from $25 billion, which is way low, to $500 billion upon completion. And that's even assuming that it could be done over a land space as large as North America. But getting to that elusive 2% to be, hitting our NATO GDP spending is part of the thinking, to be sure. Now, we also have big ticket items like submarines. We're midstream on the replacement of all of the surface combatants for the Royal Canadian Navy. We are now, again, tinkering around with the replacement of the F-15 with the F-35s. So there is a lot of other considerations as well and pressures on the Department of National Defense budget. But I think, to come back to your first question, all of these issues, and given the dynamic and relationship with the United States, I think is forcing this issue to some degree.
You can forgive people that might have a little bit of whiplash that, it wasn't that long ago we were reconsidering buying any American military products because of the threats of the 51st state business. Now, all of a sudden, we're back to talking about missile defense with them. Is there any concern here that being involved in this might play further into Trump's notion that Canada is so reliant on the Americans for defense and for defense spending that they need to just get gobbled up and become the 51st state? Because that was a serious basis of his argument at the outset.
There's no question that there will be some that will push that narrative. Do I personally think that will ever happen? No, I do not. And yet, with NORAD, and this discussion about, obviously, investment and improvement in the security of North America writ large, Canada has to be part of some form of discussion. And Peter, you will know that the improvements of NORAD, having a modernized NORAD, will involve some form of missile defense, some ability to have an interlocking system, a system of systems, if you will, that involves marine, land, air, and potentially space-based coordinated systems that will allow us to take down an intercontinental ballistic missile, potentially coming over the Arctic. Now, that sounds apocalyptic, but it is a real discussion that has to take place, especially for those in charge of Northcom and at Colorado Springs, where NORAD headquarters exists. And so that, again, massive amount of investment that will put even further strain on the Canadian Forces budget. But this political intrigue around, does this make us more integrated, more reliant, and potentially pulled into this discussion, it is perhaps a bridge too far. And you'll also recall, Peter, I think we're old enough to talk about what happened during the Reagan years with Star Wars. And how, even then, putting missiles in outer space was just seen as something Canada would never have a discussion with. And you go back further, and there was talk of nuclear weapons and whether Canada would ever take part in anything that would involve nuclear defense.
On the specifics of what Canada can contribute, obviously the land that is Canada is a major part of any missile defense, because if you have it up in the north and along the coast, then it buys that system a lot more time to intercept. So land for sure. Is it money? Like what does Canada contribute to a project like this?
Well, it is not just the land, Peter, as much as the location, because
right.
if you have an incoming intercontinental ballistic missile, any kind of threat, you want to take it down at its earliest point over the most vacant space, preferably water, and the trajectory, of course, because, to be euphemistic, you're talking about hitting a bullet with a bullet.
Yeah.
And it takes incredible sophistication, precision, technical expertise far beyond, my own understanding. But the way that the Iron Dome works, and we saw it in real time, work when Iran launched significant missiles at Israel, and they were able, without maybe a few exceptions, to take down every single one of them. We're also seeing, of course, what's playing out over Ukraine with drones and missiles, and their efforts to counter that with, in many cases, the type of equipment that they've had to literally bootstrap and bring about through their own sophisticated efforts. So we are talking something very futuristic, massively expensive, and something that has never been done in terms of just the sheer size and the technical expertise that would be involved in such a system. But, the incoming government, Prime Minister Carney, much like the elbows up discussion that went on with tariffs, this may be part of, and I don't want to use the word capitulation, but part of a trading system where, okay, we're going to do more with you on defense and security in exchange for you taking down tariffs. We don't know what's been happening behind the scenes in this discussion, but clearly President Trump is of the mind that this is something that Canada is interested in, or he's maybe imposing that upon us. Time will tell.
Time will tell indeed. Peter MacKay, thank you for this. Always great to see you.
Thank you, Peter. All the best.
Former Defense Minister Peter MacKay.